Let's take up the first question. The Ibrahim Raza, built by Ibrahim Adil Shah II, is also called. The answer there is the Taj Mahal of South India. Founder of Imad Shahi dynasty was Fathullah. The answer is Fathullah. Third question. The capital of Imad Shah dynasty was Elaichapur. Fourth question. Gol Gumbaz was built by Muhammad Adil Shah. The answer is Muhammad Adil Shah. Fifth question. The monuments constructed by Adil Shahs were in. The answer is Indo-Islamic style. The monuments constructed by Adil Shahs were in Indo-Islamic style. So that's all about the questions. We'll now start the lesson. Children, have you ever come across this picture on the screen? Yes, this is the picture depicting the conversation of Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the characters of the great Indian epic, the Mahabharata, written by Maharishi Vyasa. This conversation between them is called Bhagavad Gita, commonly referred as Gita. This is a book about life. One of the important things it talks about is bhakti. Now let's learn what is bhakti. What is bhakti? In ancient India, the priests claimed that common people could reach God only through bhakti. This bhakti allowed common man to reach God without the help of the priests and rituals. Bhakti means devoting or surrendering oneself to God. One great thing about bhakti is that it does not require any elaborate rituals to be followed. One individual should just have to worship the deity of his choice with all his heart. Without this concept of bhakti, one cannot show devotion to the deity he chooses, was a strong belief that they had. People who follow bhakti are called bhakts. BHAKTHS. Bhakti comes from the Sanskrit word bhuj, which means knowledge. Last year, you would have learnt chapters like Vedic period, rise of new religions, and so on. You learned something common in these chapters. Are you able to recollect it? You learned that in ancient India, based on the profession and wealth of the individuals, the society was divided into different sections called the Varnas. Now I am sure you would have recalled that it was the Varna system. So there were 4 Varnas: Brahmanas, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas and the Shudras. So here, the Brahmins were believed to be the highest caste in the society. Similarly, Vaishyas, who were merchants, Kshatriyas were warriors, and Shudras were laborers or service providers. They were perceived to be the people of lowest caste. It was believed in those days that bhakti was the only way to attain moksha. This caste system became very rigid in those days as they followed superstitious practices and rituals. The medieval society was under the impression that the common people were not eligible for such a destiny because all of them were not rich, neither were they Brahmins, nor they knew the Sanskrit language where they could chant on God, and neither could they understand the mantras and the gist of it. It was believed that without this concept of bhakti, one cannot show devotion to the deity of his choice. We are all aware that there are a number of deities we can develop bhakti on. For example, Shiva, Vishnu, Ganapati, Saraswati, etc. The devotees of Lord Shiva follow Shaivism and the devotees of Lord Vishnu follow Vaishnavism. So like that, there are other religions like Sufism, Buddhism, Jainism, etc. Finally, all of these religions connect to that one term, moksha. But it's just that they follow different paths to attain salvation. Hence, during this period, the saints of Bhakti cult and Sufi tradition brought in a social and religious reformation. So what is reformation here? It is the process of making changes in certain beliefs and practices with an intention of setting it back to the right path. So this led to the path of Bhakti cult. So by now, I am sure most of you would have taken a guess of the chapter that we are going to do today. It is Bhakti cult and Sufi heritage. So let's get started. Bhakti movement began in South India from Tamil Nadu and later spread towards the north of India. Initially, there were two categories, the Shaiva Nyayanmars and Vaishnava Alvars. The Shaiva Nyayanmars were followers of Shiva and the Vaishnava Alvars were followers of Vishnu. The followers of Shaivism and Vaishnavism spread their religion by constructing temples, by singing poems, shlokas, etc. Shaiva Nyayanmars were 63 in number. The saintly devotees of Shiva differed in their activities and followed different ways of praying their Lord. But something they all had in common was single-minded devotion and love for their Lord. The Vaishnava Alvars are 12 in number. Here, these 12 Alvars are those who left behind an imperishable legacy of the divine Tamil poetry known as Divya Prabandh. Here is the picture of the 63 Nayanmars and 12 Alvars. Since the names and the other details are not included in your curriculum, I have not added those details here, but those who are interested can always try and refer in the net. So let's learn about the gist of Bhakti cult. Bhakti cult condemned caste discrimination and preached equality among people. The saints of Bhakti cult condemned the superstitious practices. So what are superstitious practices? They are certain beliefs based on ideas about luck and magic rather than an authentic reason. Next, they undertook the task of uniting the hearts of the people. According to the Sufi saints, dharma is love and service to mankind. They preach that God is one and not many. Let's take up Bhakti heritage in South India. Andal is one among the 12 Alvars, the Vishnu devotees of Tamil Nadu. She was an adopted daughter of Vishnu Chittar. Vishnu Chittar was also an Alvar. He was called the Periyalvar. He was childless and he prayed to God to save him from this longing. One day, he found a girl child under a tulasi plant in a garden inside the temple. He and his wife named the child as Godai, and hence her original name was Goda Devi. She grew up as a devotee of Lord Krishna. Her father was making flower garlands and offered it to the Krishna temple of Srivilliputturu in Tamil Nadu. Andal loved Krishna and she claimed that he was her husband. She wrote the Tiruppavai and dedicated it to God. In Tamil Nadu, Tiruppavai Vrata is very famous. According to the Alvars, all Vishnu devotees are equal and their birth should not be questioned. Caste discrimination is a criminal offense, is what they believed. The next personality is Akka Mahadevi. Akka Mahadevi was an enterprising woman in the Vachana movement of the 12th century. Who is an enterprising woman? One who shows initiative or willingness to do something or to pursue their dreams. She has made immense contribution to Vachana literature. Vachana literature or the Vachana Sahitya is a form of rhythmic writing in Kannada. It can also be the Kannada poetry that evolved in the 11th and the 12th century. She was born in Udutadi of Shivamogga district in Karnataka. Her father was Nirmala Shetty and mother was Sumati. She immersed in Shiva Bhakti since her childhood. She claimed that Chanda Mallikarjuna himself was her husband. Her parents forcibly got her married to King Kaushika, but she found it an hindrance to her service to Guru linga, etc. So she left the palace. Later, she stayed at Anubhava Mantapa in Kalyana for some time. There, she wrote many vachanas under the pen name Channa Mallikarjuna. In those days, these writers chose pen name as it showed the bhakti or the devotion that they had on the Lord they chose. So their bhakti was reflected on their pen name. So here, Akka Mahadevi wrote her vachanas under the pen name Channa Mallikarjuna. She was respected by all the Shiva Sharanas. She left Kalyana and went to Sri Shaila towards the end of her life. She left her mortal body in the Kadali forest of Sri Shaila. So with this, we complete today's class. We will learn more about Bhakti heritage in the upcoming classes. Now I request you all to write down the important points to remember from the slide, and you also have an assignment to complete as usual. So we'll then meet in the next class with more interesting personalities. Thank you. Have a nice day.